That statistic is shocking. For a nation that enshrines in its founding document about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, America spends a staggering amount of time and treasure fighting wars. Not just its own, many others too. But the question arises, why? Is it for freedom? Is it for resources or maintaining global order? Or is there an important and unknown truth which the media hasn't shown, the social media definitely does not show, and it is something which is in the best interest of select few which is hidden from the world? In this video, we are not just going to delve into history. We are going to talk about three well-known conflicts which America directly or indirectly was involved into. The Russia-Ukraine war, Isreal-Palesitne, which has been long undergoing, and its intervention in the Bangaldesh Debacle recently. Please watch the video till the very end. The post-World War II answer to this is simple. To prevent any single power from attaining so much authority that they can dominate the global trade, global economy, and a global system where trade was allowed to flow freely. That was a system which massively benefits the US economy, so US wanted to protect that at any cost. This required two things. One was, of course, forward military presence. The other was deterrence. Deterrence sometimes can be more potent than just kinetic military action. But the grand strategy which was born in the Cold War era has taken a life of its own. It has created what the President Eisenhower called a military-industrial complex. Think of this way as US are obtaining Atmanirbharta in its own defense supplies and military infrastructure. So this just isn't about government. It's a multi-trillion dollar ecosystem comprising of contractors, lobbyists, many more who make up this defense infrastructure, and there are vast global interests which want to maintain a global engagement, and of course they want to maintain conflict. This is in the backdrop of every modern US intervention. The Ukraine war is the clearest example. For the US, this is strategic masterstroke without firing a single American bullet, and it has achieved multiple goals. That is, killed multiple birds with a single stone. One was it ensured that its arch rival, the erstwhile USSR, now Russia, has weakened, and its alliance towards NATO has strengthened. Now you find that many NATO allies are left on their own by the United States to fend for themselves, and they all are increasing their defense infrastructure. In fact, even Australia back in 2021 said that they are going to plan a 10-year defense budget. Yes, 10-year defense budget. That's one of its kind. Besides all of it, it ensured that Europe and many other Western economies were locked into US leadership, and they had nothing to say anything against US interests, because the difference between US and Europe was also growing pre-2022, especially at the aftermath of COVID, when the Europe was expecting US to take a firmer stand against China. And now, no matter what US does with China, Europe is clearly engulfed on one side. And this mattered a lot for United States. Support for Ukrainian sovereignty is morally stated and widely supported. But the underlying American interest is cold, real hard politics. In the great game played with HIMARS and intelligence satellites, US is the house that always wins. The US-Israel relationship is often framed on moral or historical terms, but the strategy is key. Israel is America's key ally in the Middle East, and Israel is something which America simply cannot afford to lose. So, given the fact that Saudi Arabia today is diversifying its strategic interests by appointing Pakistan with a security guarantee, US feels it's losing stronghold. So, US saw this coming, and hence in advance they ensured that they strengthened their relationship with Israel. Given the fact that despite Pegasus software being so threatening, there was no anti-piracy commentary across the globe. There was no human rights talk about Pegasus software, with many governments continuously using it, including India, of course. So, all of this being said, US was not just someone who strategically intervened, he was always someone who strategically decided not to intervene. When the war breaks out, the bipartisan support for Israel was ironclad. It was influenced by strong lobbying and evangelical Christian interest. Israel battlefield also is a great ground for US to test its weapons, which can then be sold globally. So US uses other nations to do what India did with its own weapons in the Operation Sindoor. So after Operation Sindoor, there was a huge demand for India's BrahMos missiles and Indian anti-aircraft defense. So it was a very good battleground. So just like India, even United States needs a battleground to test its weapons, and Israel fits the bill. When a war breaks out, the US commitment is immediate and massive for Israel. Its strategic interest is maintaining a dominant and a militarily superior ally. That often outweighs the public calls for restraint or equal pressure for Palestinian statehood. The ally must be strong above everything else. To see the pattern in the rawest form, we have to go back to 1971. The Bangladesh Liberation War. Pakistan was a key US ally, and the Soviet Union in the Cold War was acting against it. Just like all other proxy wars, this Bangladesh Liberation War was also becoming a proxy war between US and the Soviet Union. US backed the Pakistan and India took help of Soviet Union. Under Nixon and Kissinger knew that this was a genocide conducted by Pakistani army on the Bangladeshis, but they took no interest in the same. So what did America do in it? They sided with Pakistan, they sent military supplies and even deployed the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier to the Bay of Bengal. This was to intimidate India. We know this happened, and the question is, why were they supporting or why were they not interfering in the genocide? Simple, Pakistan would be a long-term buyer of their weapons. So the Cold War calculation was played out, and Pakistan was a channel to open relations with China and isolate USSR from everything else. The millions of Bengali lives were just a less priority or a very acceptable collateral damage. So what's the pattern? There is a core strategic interest. It was to contain rivals, control the regions like Middle East, and winning the Cold War. Secondly, it wanted an arsenal ready to supply. So a domestic industry made on defense that has benefits for prolonged conflict, not a swift peace. See, think of it this way. Every nation wants to be self-reliant on military and other matters. India desires it too. But in peacetime, the same industry is really losing demand, because a country cannot keep fighting war. So what do? Create conflict elsewhere and try supplying them weapons. Give a geopolitical strategic support to the countries who buy your weapons. So this is pretty much the case why Pakistan gets benefited by the US or gets favored by the US. They buy the F-16s from the United States. We choose to buy more of the Russian supplies. So this is precisely another case of vested interest overpowering human life, considering innocent civilians as a collateral damage. The action taken by United States is always framed as for freedom, for sovereignty, for counter-terrorism, for global order or stability, which can be true but is never the full picture. Think of the case of what they did with Afghanistan. How was Afghanistan when the United States entered it, and how was it when they exited it? If anything, Afghanistan has only gone further from US, and now Afghanistan is taking an independent geopolitical view despite the state they are. Well, surprisingly, Afghanistan has come closer to India since then. The result is that the state is in perpetual engagement. These three examples, Ukraine, Israel and Bangladesh, are of different eras, have different contexts, but it has the same engine: American grand strategy and the powerful interests that sustain it. This isn't about being anti-American, this is about being pro-clarity. To understand why America fights so much, you have to look past the headlines and the moral framing. You have to follow the strategy, the money and the cold calculus of power. It doesn't mean that causes are always in some cases, but it always means that the reasons are more complex and often more self-interested than what we are told. The question for future is, in a multipolar world, can this strategy hold? Or is America's war-prone posture creating the very backlash and instability it seeks to prevent? What do you think? Is this strategy sustainable? Can America continue to do this in an era when dollar is losing its relevance? In an era where multiple non-NATO alliances like the BRICS are coming up? Is NATO losing its relevance? With each country left to fend for itself, why would any alliance matter? The WTO has just become a matter of name more than anything else. Is it a matter of time when United Nations Security Council will reconsider its members and start including more permanent members and probably eliminate some of the existing permanent members? We don't know, only time will tell. Till then, thank you very much for watching the video.